Check it now, sir. It should be starting. Sir, is it started now?
Yeah, I started.
Yeah. So I read your paper properly, and I got some questions like some of the things that I don't know, or might be I got some doubts. So I would like to discuss about the same thing.
Okay.
Let's not waste much time. But to those people who don't know Yajnadevam, he is a cryptographer, and he did a research work on IVC script. He is able to decipher it using the techniques mentioned by Shannon according to Shannon's theory, and he published his paper. And of course, it is not published in mainstream media, but it is a point to consider because I'm very impressed with his work. So I got some queries, so I'm running this live right now. So my first question is about first sign. Uh,
Yes.
Actually, when I am using the regex or manually checking the dictionary, that the dictionary use in new paper, I didn't find the first word at all.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that first sign?
Right. So the first sign is a soma jar, in which you drink the soma cup, and the word for that in Shatapatha Brahmana is anshu. Okay. So all Indus signs are the first letters of their names, of the image they represent, which is pretty normal, way of creating alphabets. The alphabet we use today, when it was started by the Phoenicians, it was pretty much similar. The letter A was the shape of a bull's head, and the word for bull in their language is Aleph. So Aleph became alpha, became like A. Okay. So in Indus script, the sign for an is from ansha. Okay. So what is if you look at all the letters in the, let me actually see if I can share this paper so people can see what I'm
Meanwhile, I will introduce the others in the panel too. Along with me are Kiranastram. His name is Kiranarajyam or Kiran, and other one is Kapari the shepherd. He both are having their dedicated channels, and they are doing some marvelous work in their respected fields. So please continue, sir.
yes. So I don't know if it's clear. Maybe I can increase the size here. The yeah, maybe this is better. So you see this little jar here. I don't know if you can see my arrow.
Yeah, we can see
Yeah.
your arrow. Yeah,
Yeah.
we know the jar signs.
Yes. So this is the jar sign, and it represents anshu, and it's anuswara, and anuswara is essentially pronounced as the definition of that is a post-vocalic nasalization, which means you say the consonant, you say the vowel, and then you have a nasal, release. So it will be just sound like an. Okay. When anuswara is at the end of the word, you close your mouth, so it will sound like Okay. So it's actually not ma. Ma is not the same as anuswara. Anuswara is post-vocalic nasalization. So in before, so in so for example, the name Sinha, it actually is what you would call Simha today, but it's really pronounced Sinha. So the letter, the sign stands for the sound an, and it also is used for anuswara because that's its real representation. So you see both an and here. I don't know if you can see this, but there is an and here. Those are what the values of the sign are. When you have the word ananam is actually a anuswara ending of anana. Anana means face. Okay. So I think I have it here, the first sign. Yeah, I've described it here. from the dictionary regex we get ananan representing ananam. So this ananam is you in the dictionary you'll only have anana, because dictionaries do not contain conjugated forms. Sorry, the declined and conjugated forms. So for example, if there's a word Rama, it has many different declensions. So it has Prathama Vibhakti, Dvitiya Vibhakti, and so on. So Prathama Vibhakti of Rama is Ramaha, Dvitiya is Ramam, Tritiya is Ramena. So Ramena and all of this, they don't put in the dictionary. But when you write the text in an inscription, you have to decline it. You have to give the proper vibhakti for it to have meaning. So in this particular inscription, they have written anana in the Dvitiya Vibhakti, second Vibhakti, which is accusative. And that they have done using as a anuswara. So ananam is present as accusative form, which is not in the dictionary. So you have to add that to the dictionary, or you can only match the only the stem of it. So that's essentially what it is. In so let me see if I can change the tab here.
I have a small question regarding this. Can I ask?
Yes, please.
Yeah, you said anana, right? But it should be anana, right? I mean, it should be anana. According to Sanskrit, face is.
So let me show you.
Anana gives us something different meaning. Okay, anana is the face. So how do you differentiate between a and a? Shorter vowel and a longer vowel. So how do you differentiate between the both?
Okay, one second. I'm trying to find the tab here. Let me just stop presenting and re-get that. Okay, right. Do you see the window or no?
No, it isn't presenting anything. I think you have to resume your presentation.
No, you are not presenting at all.
Yeah, that's.
If you want some link to open, I can do it also.
Yeah, there's a Monia Williams English Dictionary. Let's
one
see.
which you mentioned in your paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a minute. I will open it.
So the meaning of anana is the living one. It's not face, which is anana, but anana means the living one. It's attached in nirukta. I have no idea why it's.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I think I can share.
Yeah, Anna means the face. You know Gajanana, right? It's a name for epithet for Ganesha, the elephant-faced one. So Anana means Anana gives us something very different, completely different meaning, breathing or living one. But Anana gives Anana means face actually. So that's why I was confused.
I've shared it. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see.
But
yeah, we can see.
Yeah. So that is anana, which means breathing or living. So the the one who breathes. So ananam is a word for the living God. Okay, so that's essentially it. And if you have a Dvitiya Vibhakti of it, it will be ananam.
So you meant to say that you didn't derive this on using cryptographic techniques? I don't understand, because I thought I'm expecting something logic like you mentioned in the millennium or something like that. But you are saying that some grammatically some it
Right.
happened.
So no. It's simpler than that. So in a cryptogram, when you have a dictionary, you can get because you don't have everything in the dictionary. You don't have declined forms. So so you have to understand the difference between the English dictionary and a Sanskrit dictionary or any of these Indian dictionaries. In an English dictionary, there are very few declined forms because English is what's called an analytical language. Okay, so there is no such thing as Dvitiya Vibhakti or anything like that. They use prepositions. They say off, to, by instead of Ramena, Ramasya. They don't have that. So in an English dictionary, you have all the you can put all the words, and even when you have verb forms, there's very simple things like go and going. They can put both in the dictionary. In a Sanskrit dictionary, if you try to create all the forms, it will become billions of words. So you cannot put all the words in a Sanskrit dictionary. Okay, it is just not practical. So what you have to do when you do the cryptogram method on a Sanskrit dictionary is, if you go into a dead end, let me try to see if I can share that. Something happens to the tab, man, every time I do this.
If you are using Chrome, you can change the tab by sharing the tabs.
Yeah, I think I will just change the window itself. Then it's easy. Okay, so now I can change the tab here. So, sorry, I forgot what we were discussing.
Yeah, we
We're
are
talking
discussing.
about declensions, okay? Yeah, I mean, English is an analytic language, right? So
Right.
I have another question. It should
Yeah.
be very challenging to consider all the various declensions available that should be present in the Sanskrit language. Right? There must have been a couple of million or billion things to consider.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, how did you take into consideration all the different types of declensions, and there are conjugations and nominal derivatives and everything else, right?
Yeah. So I have described it here in section 2.10.3. Essentially, when you have so I was lucky that many of the forms of the words were in vocative. Okay, vocative form is what's in the dictionary. So when I was first going through the cryptographic method, I could find a lot of matches, and I could figure out that this is what the structure is, and so on. And then when I occasionally get into a place where there is a accusative or something like that, I could add it to the dictionary. Okay, so so there is this whole section on false negatives and false positives. A false negative is you go into a dead end, like you're discussing why ananam is not there in the dictionary. That's a false negative. It's a negative because you don't have it in the dictionary. It's a false negative because it's still a legal word. Okay, so when there's a false negative in the cryptogram method, you are supposed to add that word to the dictionary, and as long as it's a legal word, that is what is expected. Okay, you cannot add an illegal word. Okay, you cannot just make garbage random strings and put it in the dictionary. But for example, let's say in some dictionary knowing is missing but no is there, you can add the word knowing because it's a legal word. Okay, because remember, dictionary is, there are many dictionaries, and dictionaries have different number of words, and they are for different purposes. Okay, so for example, in when you play Scrabble, there's a Scrabble dictionary that is only for that game. There are other medical dictionaries which have other words. Okay, so what so the question is, what dictionary are you going to use for IndusScript? Okay, so I used the Monier-Williams dictionary because it was a downloadable dictionary. There are many other dictionaries, but when you find that you get a partial match, so when you do regular expression, you get a partial match. So if you have a string of 4 or 5 signs and you try to match them bit by bit, you will get part of the, so even if you don't get the whole word, you will get part of the word. And when you get a part of the word, you can see if the next thing is a accusative, is a conjugated form. So what happened with the ananam is that there are, let me show you the actual derivation. I think maybe I've written it right here. The first word. So so that jar sign is present at the end of many inscriptions, like almost 1/3 or one half of the inscriptions. So that was a sign that it is. And by the way, this is a pre-existing research. I didn't think it up. That the jar sign is some kind of declension or conjugation because it's present as an ending. So now when there is a declension, you have to think what declension could it be? It could be either prathama vibhakti, which is visarga, dvitiya, which is an, or the others are much rarer. Okay, so when you have only those two, if you have a inscription with 3 of those, it can only be an. The proof itself, if you look in the derivation section, and I'm scrolling a little too fast, but I want to kind of save the time here. The proof itself essentially is the word itself, and the fact that there is just one sign, that means there should also be a legal word, and the fact that there are so many terminal anuswaras there are, at the end of every inscription, at the end of many inscriptions. So the only possible value for this is an. Okay, if it is it's a I hope that is clear.
Yeah, it's clear now. Let's move to another question. I'm sorry, I'm having some background noise. Okay. You use the Sanskrit dictionary in English language, like Latin alphabets. And also we can say that Rama can be pronounced as Rama, Rama, or Rama, whatever it may be. So how would you justify using the Latin alphabet dictionary for your cryptography methods?
No, it's not Latin alphabet. It's something called SLP1. Okay, SLP1 is a way of, so SLP, let me get. So in SLP1, what happens is every letter has its own symbol. Okay, so same for vowels. You see, A is small a is big A. Does that make sense? So it is not, and both Monier William and some of the other dictionaries write it in SLP1 because it's easier for them to represent and parse and so on. And for regular expressions also, it makes it relatively easy. Okay, in the actual derivation, what I've done, because you want to match long vowels also, I have replaced the long a with the 2 small a's. So Rama would be R-A-A-M-A. It wouldn't be just R-A-M-A. Okay. So to answer your question, yes, it is in SLP1, and it's not just Latin. And in our dictionary, in our actual program, we have made sure that differentiation exists so we can distinguish between the two.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And my next question is, you assume it is you tried it as a Sanskrit language. What is the possibility or chance of any other language, like something close to Sanskrit, like Avestan or Maharashtra? What is the possibility? Can we do the same? Because maybe if we consider the pi language theory, if some Proto-Indo-Iranian language, it would still a match. Does it work out?
No. So forget other languages. You can't even read it as different values of the same language. Okay. So there is a principle in information theory that says that if you read beyond a certain size, then the decipherment is unique. Unique means no other reading is possible in that language or a different language. Okay. And there are several reasons for that. We can definitely go into it, but it is mathematically impossible. If it's a very short, you're reading, depending on the key meaning the assignment of the values to the sign, you could read up to 100, up to 500 or something like that, and still have it kind of look like a different language or with different values. But the moment you cross the unicity distance, it's pretty much guaranteed it's unique. Okay. So not only old Sanskrit is, like pre-Sanskrit is possible, PI is impossible, Prakrit is impossible. Forget Maharashtrian and Avestan, they are, two different. None of them are possible. This is the exact dialect, and only this is possible.
Okay. And one more question. You used Panini grammar. You said it is close to Panini grammar, like post Veda and pre-classical.
Yes.
When you are solving using cryptography, how did you know that it is using the same grammar? Because
Yeah,
in
I didn't know.
cryptography,
I didn't know. Initially, I didn't know any. I didn't have any guess on what the grammar is. So I got the value. So if you look at all the decipherment, like the stage by stage here, these are just words. These are vocative. Okay. So when I say I don't know what the grammar is, so if you see, they're all short words. So there is no question of grammar here because they are single words. They are short seals. Okay. So I did not have an idea whether all the case forms are there, whether verbs are conjugated properly, whether any Vedic forms are there. I knew nothing. And if you see, this is it. Everything is a short word. The question of grammar doesn't arise when you decipher it. When you translate the long seals, that is when the question of grammar arises. And initially, I just put, I did a greedy match. So I'll tell you what a greedy match is. So if you can see this, I can just say prefix here, and I can just do,
Can you zoom it a little because we can clearly see it?
Yes, it's better for
Yeah.
me. So if I want to say, a KAR, okay, I'll get all the words of KAR. Now I have so many words, right? So I can pick some more words, okay, and I can keep doing that until it becomes just one match, okay. So I can see which sign, how many signs will fit until you get only one word. That's called a greedy match. So I was just doing greedy match from the dictionary. And as long as everything fit in most of the inscriptions, most of the long inscriptions, what that means is the phonotactics are correct. Phonotactics is a set of rules that prevents certain sounds from being followed by other sounds. So as long as the phonotactics is correct, the language and the assignment of symbols is correct. I was hoping someone who knows Sanskrit will do the actual, parsing and translation. So I didn't know that, and when people told me try it with the grammar, I said, okay, let's try Paninian grammar, because that's the only grammar that is available to everyone. Before Panini, there was Indra grammar and some other grammars that was done by all these other grammarians were there before Panini, like Yaska and all these other guys. There were some 20 grammarians listed by Panini. So the actual grammar, we don't actually know 100%, but what we know is that Paninian grammar is able to parse all of these meaningfully. Okay. So when there is so let me show you the index script here. So when you see this, I'm able to parse it using Paninian grammar, and I'm able to translate using Paninian grammar. So what Paninian grammar does for us is it lets us parse it properly and read the meaning properly. Now, the difference between that and the previous grammar may not be that much. We don't actually know.
Okay, got it. So I think panel member Thinky Monkey got some question. I think please unmute yourself and please speak.
Hello, Yajnadevam sir. Yeah, my question is again on the same lines. So the you said the Paninian grammar was able to parse properly, but we could only see 37% of the seals are translated. So
Yeah.
why is that so? And there is a very good chance that the language used in the seals might be much older or much older than the Paninian Sanskrit. Not Sanskrit at the time of Panini. So we might be reading. There is a very good chance we might be reading one word as the another. Something like there could be a chance, right? I mean, maybe it was.
Okay, so let me first address the questions one by one. So what I've done is I have sorted it by length, okay,
Okay.
and I have just started doing the longest first, okay.
Okay.
And if you can see, the length column keeps decreasing, the length gets shorter and shorter. And I've done all the long ones, and it's not just me, there are other people who are reading it also helping me, okay.
Okay.
And we have come to length of about 6, okay.
Okay.
So now there are only short words left. Makes sense?
Okay.
So the chances of a short word not fitting into this is much less than a long word, than the long inscription.
Reasonable. Yes.
So it's just a matter of time. You know, we have spent a few weeks on this, and it takes time because it's many of these forms are like old forms. Okay, so we have to do research. We have to understand the actual meaning. See, reading it is easy. I can read all of this. See this little star here. This is automatically generated by the program, by the website. Okay, so we have read all of it 100%. We just don't have a good translation. We don't know where the word break is. We don't know where the sandhi is. We don't know, what the right meaning is. So, for example, I'll give you an example. There is this sequence. Yeah, so there's a sequence vara, okay, varan, this one, okay.
Okay.
So this sequence, you can, we try to do regular expression and auto-generating the word, but this can be read in 2-3 ways. One is varan, which is a plural of vara. Vara is a blessing or, excellent or something like this. Another is varam, which is singular. And there is vrana. Vrana means wound. So the issue is that the ability to pick the right meaning, actually coding it into the website is non-trivial. It is a multi-year work. So what we are doing is we are just looking up we're just generating we're generating the transliteration, and then we are just manually translating it. And even when you translate, the same word will have different meanings. So if I put vara, for example, you see how many meanings are there? There's a lot of meanings. Choice, chooser, royal, better, stopping, checking. There are so many meanings. And the meaning of a short word, you can choose anything, it doesn't matter. But if it's next to
Correct.
two words, it has to make sense.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you here. Let me be the devil's advocate here. So that is a kind of a clever thing to do, the translation of longer inscriptions first than the shorter ones, because Sanskrit itself is a tricky language. I mean, same vara might have many meanings. So instead of getting bogged in finding out the correct translation, you first chose the longer inscriptions so that, there would be very little ambiguity compared to the shorter ones.
Correct. So that is why we did that.
That is kind of in one way it's a clever thing. The other way it is like some kind of confirmation bias we might be putting into the translation.
Right. And also there are many claimed decipherments, and they all translate short, inscriptions, which is not challenging, or it doesn't give you that comfort of certainty.
Right.
So, for example, S.R. Rao said he translated 1,000 inscriptions. Okay.
Mhm.
And he claimed everything is monosyllabic. So so in this software, if you just put L1, it'll tell you how many single letter, single sign things are there. There's 363. And if you say L2, there's 968. So there are over 1,000 inscriptions that are 1 or 2 signs.
Right.
So if you say, I've translated 1,000, it doesn't mean much. You have to translate the longest. Okay.
Correct.
So what we have done is we have translated the 600 longest, which is very hard, and we only have short inscriptions left. So we are pretty confident we'll be able to do all of them.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, I got a question here. I mean, you assumed the entire region, IVC civilization, spoke single language and single grammar. How does that justified? I mean, this could be some seals can be written in some other language. Is that possible?
Okay, so I don't think it's a single language actually. I think they have multiple Indo-Aryan dialects, so multiple dialects of Sanskrit. And the reason is, if you see the signs for sa, sha, sa, ha, they can be interchanged. And that is what happened in Prakrit. In Prakrit, when they started writing Brahmi, the Sanskrit words and Prakrit words sound similar, but they are using different sounds. So, for example, Sena becomes Shena in Prakrit, and people who write Prakrit, they would write it in either way. Okay. And today that happens in South India also, like Tamil people, when they write North Indian words, they use different alphabets. So they may write Hindi as Hindi or Hindi, okay, when they write in English, because the third distinction is not there in Tamil. So because of that, I think there are multiple dialects of Indo-Aryan in that in IVC. Now the question is, are there anything other than Indo-Aryan in IVC? So we've been through 37%. We haven't found anything else other than Sanskrit that cannot be read as Sanskrit. Okay. In the Middle East, in Bahrain, in Mesopotamia, we have found inscriptions that are in Sumerian and Akkadian. But in Indus Valley, so far, we have not found any. Okay. But when we do the rest of them, we will be able to give a definite answer whether something exists or not.
Okay. Let's move on to the next question. In your script, you said Indus script is discovered to be Proto-Abhagada segmented with signs for constants and vowels. Is this your assumption, or you got any published paper in this regard?
Okay. So discovered to be means that we have determined it using our decipherment. Okay. So it is not something someone said. This is what we've discovered. That's what we're saying. Now let me clarify what is Proto-Abhagada and the entire the system. The vowel system works similar to Achaemenid cuneiform, which means that a consonant can just be the consonant or consonant with the default vowel a. Okay. And if it's followed by a vowel, then the default vowel is overridden by that specific vowel. So Achaemenid cuneiform uses the same kind of writing system, and so do we. So you can call it alphabetic, but the reason I call it Abhagada is because of certain vowel forms where the vowel is attached to the let me see if I can find it. The vowel is attached to the consonant itself. Okay, so I'll give you a good example here. Here the vowel is attached to the consonant, and that eventually became your Brahmi. So what happened was I'm trying to find a thing that I've written. I've described an example. Okay, here. You see, this was the, because the and the E is attached to the, and the Brahmi, the is also similar. It is attached to the E is attached to the consonant. So because it has, although the script has both alphabetic and abugida features, I call it proto-abugida. So that, and I call it segmental, because that is, I wanted to just characterize it as accurately as possible. Does that make sense? So it is not someone else's paper, although there is a paper recently that claims that
Yeah, I saw recently some paper from Muhammad, I think.
Yeah, but that was later. That is published. Yeah, that's published this month.
Yeah.
But my thing, it's a finding. It's a finding based on actual decipherment, which you can see, here. Okay, so that's what it means. It means this is how you read it. So it's an outcome. It's not a assumption.
Okay, got my answer. So have you tried Dravidian language? Like, why isn't it a right choice? You mentioned it is not a right choice in your paper, and I already read it, but I'm not satisfied with your answer. Why are you? Have you tried it using the deciphering using Dravidian language?
Yeah. So here is the thing about Dravidian. Okay.
Yes.
So in Dravidian is called what's called an agglutinative language. So in a language, when you create a word, typically what happens is a word has a root or a stem, and to that you add affixes which change the meaning of that stem. Okay. So in agglutinative languages, these affixes are regular. Regular means it is always the same for all words and for all cases. It gives the exact change in meaning. So in Dravidian, for example, if there's a word ava means he. Okay, if you add lu, it becomes feminine. Okay, and for all words you add lu, it becomes feminine. If you add ru, it becomes plural. Ava ru. I'm talking in Kannada. I mean, you guys can find other examples in your language.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah, and if you put li, okay, it becomes a locative, which means it is in that place. So avaralli is avaru, avaralli. You can just keep attaching these affixes. Okay. Now these affixes have a fixed order, and there's a theory by a person called Sink, who states that this order is universal across all agglutinative languages. I don't know if it's true, but at least in Dravidian, it is true. So you cannot change the order. You cannot say, so avaralli means in them, but you cannot make it avalira. Avalira is not a word. Nobody's going to understand it. Makes sense. So what happens in Dravidian is you have forms that would not, what happens in Indoscript is you have forms that exhibit this kind of rearrangement of what would be affixes, and therefore it cannot be Dravidian. What it has to be, so those cannot be affixes. So what it has to be is they have to be stems that are compounded. So when you say a stem that is compounded, you attach, in a compound, you attach two words, it becomes one more word, right? Like housewarming is a compound. In Dravidian, the compounds have only two stems. In classical Sanskrit, you can have unlimited number of stems. They have 10, 20 stems also in rare cases, but 4 or 5 stems is pretty common. And and especially it's true in classical Sanskrit, not in Vedic Sanskrit. So Vedic Sanskrit also has a few cases where there are more than 2 stems, but in classical Sanskrit it is normal. Okay. So that so what this means is that it cannot be not only Dravidian, it cannot be any agglutinative language. Makes sense? Because then because of this order is fixed and it cannot be reordered meaningfully. Therefore, and it has to, it can only be multi-stem compound, and multi-stem compounds don't exist except in very few languages it exists. It exists in classical Sanskrit, German, and a handful of others. So this actually eliminates almost all other languages.
So, so you know this structure of the script before you start the working on it?
No, I didn't know. So when I started the work, it was much simpler. The paper has grown, and the paper is written in a way that the reader can consume the information in a structured way, but the discovery and the work doesn't flow in that beautiful fashion. Okay, when I started, my first idea was to use a Dravidian. Okay, because I wanted to falsify someone else's work, but there was no Dravidian dictionary, downloadable dictionary, or I couldn't find it at least. Then I said, okay, let's try Sanskrit and try to get different values, and that's how I started. But eventually, I did find Dravidian dictionary, and I tried it with Dravidian, and it fails for various reasons. So one is the certain word forms that don't see. As I'm here, I'm talking about trying it with Dravidian here.
Consecutive letters.
Right. So you have the consecutive letters, and you have consecutive letters in the Dravidian dictionary. I could get only these 4 matches, and then when they are in different combinations, there are no such words, and that is one failure. The other failure is you don't get words which can have 3 consecutive same signs and so on. Whereas this is very common in Sanskrit, right? In Sanskrit, there's lit lakara. So if you have, if you have sa, that is a word, right? So, and because of that, because of many of these reasons, Dravidian fails. Dravidian is not a match. It's agglutinative, which is we have eliminated, and we have tried with the dictionary anyway. And you essentially get stopped at the first sign itself. And you can try other signs, but when you see the double signs, they further don't match anything else. Okay, so there is no way cryptographically you can derive Dravidian out of it. Dravidian or any agglutinative language. You can do it using other forms. You can say, this is logographic. I'm just going to assign words to it. But people have been trying that for 40 years or more. Okay, they're trying to decipher it as Dravidian for 40 years. And you know how far they've gotten? They've gotten to like 13 different signs, and they've just assigned values, and they're reading the values they've assigned. They've not been able to read any long inscription. So 40 years plus the mathematical proof here that it cannot be Dravidian or agglutinative, I think that is pretty strong evidence that rules out Dravidian.
But so far, has anyone used the mathematical for deciphering, or they are using the trial and error?
For InterScript or something else?
For InterScript.
For InterScript, I don't think anyone is used now. But this has been used in for linear B, for example. They've used cryptographic method. But for InterScript, most people, the issue is most people are kind of stuck with the narratives, and it is preventing them. There are assumptions in the narrative that are preventing people from analyzing it properly. Okay, the first assumption is that it's Dravidian. You already assumed it. Okay, second is it is logographic. That's already assumed. So when you try to say that this is logographic and Dravidian, both are wrong, and you try to just force words into it, you are not going to get anywhere. Hundreds of, really thousands of people have tried. They've tried it for 40 years. They've tried it with computers. They've tried all manner of things, but because they're stuck on Dravidian and they're stuck on logographic, they're not getting anywhere. Okay, if you know anything about scripts, you will understand that there are really only 70 or so signs in the early stages, and this is well known. So you cannot have a logographic system with just 74 signs. Okay, it would just not make sense to create a script like that over 2,500 years, and only 70 signs are attested. There's just, so there itself they're wrong. And can you do this as Tamil with the cryptography? I have tried it; it doesn't work. If you want to create another old form of Dravidian, you have to recreate that language from scratch. You have to create this dictionary from scratch. You have to prove that such a language could exist. And then, even then, you will fail because it's agglutinative. Okay. So, no one has tried, to my knowledge, cryptographically, no one has tried InterScript so far. And that is why I succeeded. And that's why it looks so simple. If you look at the derivation, it looks so straightforward. There is nothing, there's no great, logic or anything behind it. There's no brilliance. Okay. The only thing I've really done, the only, the smart thing I've done is I've modeled the problem correctly. Other than that, all of this is known things, known methodology. It's just tedious. It's just you do one after one. You just keep typing into, regular expression into the terminal. You get a set, you reduce the set, that's it. It's just tedious. But it's not, and of course, writing it in a way that people are able to absorb it and be convinced of it, that is also hard. But getting the actual values, it's just straightforward. You can see how simple it is. You're getting one by one. You just find a word where there's only one extra letter. So you look at this. So I got the first one. Second, I find inscriptions with only one extra sign. So now I can decipher that sign. Then I find one more with the previous two and one extra sign. Then I do that. And that's it. You just go through the whole thing. And you go it in the descending order of frequency so that you get more matches when you know fewer signs in the beginning. That's it. It's not anything complicated.
Yeah. Monkey, did you got any question?
Yeah. So my question is, we know that for Egyptian logographic scripts, each symbol means a word, not a syllable. Or not a single character or single alphabet. How did you arrive that each one of the symbol belongs to one alphabet instead of a word? Is it a presumption, or after the cryptography methods you applied, you arrived at that? So could you explain that part clearly? Because if it is each represents a single word, the whole story changes, and that is the assumption the previous decipherers tried to do that, and that's where they failed. So Sanskrit being a tricky language, but we might find so many root words. So have you arrived this after your method, or is it a presumption that each logo, each character represents a single alphabet?
Okay, so in certain systems, each symbol is a particular word. Okay, in Egyptian, there are symbols which represent words. There are symbols which represent sounds. And that's just a thing to clear up. But coming back to this question here, is this a assumption? The fact that you have triple symbols in one inscription makes it kind of very hard for it to be any kind of one sign equal to one word, because are you going to say go go go? What are you going to write that has three words repeating in the same one after the other? And in the case of Dholavira, in some inscription there are 4 or 5 of the same words. So you wouldn't be able to read such a thing logographically. Okay, that is one. The second is there are only 71. There's no writing system in the world that is logographic that has such a short, so logographic alphabets or logographic scripts have a large signary, which means they have many signs. So Chinese, for example, has over 40,000 signs.
Right, but that could be attributed to very little of the corpus we found. We might not have got all the signs probably, because this whole civilization has spanned for over thousands of years. but we got only. So that could be, I mean, the outcome justifies your approach. But my question is again, like banking on whether it's a presumption. I mean, that is one valid thing which you said. Like, I mean, same word cannot repeat 4 times, 5 times. So what sensible meaning does it actually carry? True. But like, I mean, your whole decipherment lies on the very fact that each picture represents one alphabet. So that is, I mean, a tremendous, I mean, like a path-breaking assumption to make, isn't it?
Okay, so let me try to find the thing that I've written here.
I mean, that would be too much a bold assumption. So, I mean, is it?
No, it's not bold at all. No.
Okay. Yeah, please do it.
So, yeah. Okay, here it is. Script type. So if it is logographic, you would not see that many repetitions in even the short inscriptions. So, okay, so for example, so this is, so we all know the Chinese alphabet is kind of logographic. Okay, it's not technically logographic, but in terms of its characteristics, it has 40,000 symbols. It has
right. Yes.
Okay. So when you write words in such a script, you are not going to see a lot of repetitions. Okay. The expected number of repetitions, it can be calculated by something called the birthday collision problem.
Okay.
So in the IndusScript corpus, you should not see any repetitions unless the inscription has 25 signs or more. Okay, you should not see it. And at 25 signs, you would see one inscription with the repeated letter. Okay. But we see so many of them, 17% of them have repetitions. And this is before we consider allograph. Allograph means 2 signs with the same value.
Right.
So if there are so many signs with multiple repeating letters, and some where the signs are repeating 3-4 times, then it is extremely unlikely to be logographic. That is one. The second is the size of the signery itself is small. Over from 4000 BC to 2000 BC, that's 2000 years.
Right.
You would should see all the things.
Yeah. So that brings to my second question, the allographs. So
yeah, monkey, please. I need to. I have many questions, so please give me the priority to me. Okay. In your section 4, in section 2.10.5, you mentioned that from Meluha words and names attested in Sumerian inscriptions, it appears that Meluha spoke some form of post-Vedic Sanskrit, but one of that is too early to be termed as classical Sanskrit. So, do you mean to say that the Vedas existed at the time of Harappa civilization? If yes, how much? What is the approximate date for the Vedas? How did you arrive on all those dates?
Okay, so what we know, so there's a linguistic answer to this and there's a textual answer to this. Okay, so linguistically, it appears that the names in the Sumerian inscriptions are from later Sanskrit texts, right? For example, Samara and Nanas here in this, 2 of the names attested, they are from they're not in the Vedas. So now the question is, did Vedas exist? So we know that the Brahmanas have been dated to around 2300 BC by Professor Whitney, who is one of the greatest Sanskrit scholars of all time. Okay, and also by people like Tilak and others. It is based on astronomical dating. So we do know that. So that is one. We know from the description of Dhruva. So Dhruva, today it's Polaris, but Polaris was not Polestar till year 500. The description of Dhruva is the 3rd star in the tail of Shishumara, which is Alpha Draconis. Okay, Dhruva was Polestar in 2300 BC. So you'll see a lot of these dates in the Puranas and the Brahmanas, which are around 2300 BC. So I give you two examples. I'll give you one more. Kritika rising in the east on the spring equinox. That's also 2300 BC. So 2300 BC is right in the middle of the mature Harappan phase when most of the inscriptions were created. So if the Brahmanas existed then, if the Puranic stories existed, then Vedas must have existed even earlier, right? So yeah, now what's that? So when you say Vedas, the precise meaning of Vedas is Samhita plus Brahmana. Okay, the mantra you chant and the meaning of the, like, you know, the description of the actual rituals. So if the Brahmanas existed, then Samhitas must also existed before that, right? What's the exact date of Samhitas? I mean, that is, you know, I have to leave it to the experts to give it. And even the Brahmanas date, by the way, I didn't figure it out. It was Professors Whitney, Tilak, and all these, you know, all these great men have calculated it. I can show that also. Let's see. So this is essentially this is your 27 nakshatras, okay, and the Gopata Brahmana essentially says this. Okay, so this is around 3800 BC. It says that the year starts at full moon at Uttara Palguni and ends at Pura Palguni. So that means it was around this time. And what is this? This is your winter solstice. You know, Yugadi. Yugadi means start of the year. That starts during this time. If you look at the year here, it's 3820. Okay, the least it can be is this date, about 3570. So this is from Gopata Brahmana. There are many of these dates, many of these astronomical observations. And remember, these are not things that they're just describing. These are actual practical things they're doing as part of the religion. You know, make the sacrifice, create the altar facing this, and all of that stuff. So since these are practical instructions, this must be what they saw and they recorded. So based on that, these are the estimated dates. And this particular site has, you know, they have taken the dates of various you know, beyond this I don't actually, you know, so beyond this 433, it's hard for me to grasp even how old these things are. But at least the calendaring stuff, the creating the altar stuff, that is pretty straightforward. There's nothing to think or interpret. So those are the dates that they're given for it.
Yeah, Kiran, do you have any question?
Yeah, relating to this, not the question, but anyway, these are the cyclical, right? This Kala Chakra. So every 26,000 or 36,000 years, it gets repeated, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little less than 26,000. Yeah.
Right. So this can be, we should not date it to 4,000 or 3,000 BCE. It can be beyond that.
Well, then you will have to date it to 30,000 BC, which is much harder.
Right,
It's the Ice Age.
What about the recent one?
The most
so
recent,
the lowest what we can get is that 4,000 or 3,000, as you said.
Yeah, this is the most recent you can get date.
Correct.
Okay. My next question is about your section 4. You mentioned so many rules, like this vowel precedes something like that. So many rules you mentioned in your section 4.
Yeah.
How did you come up with all those rules? Is it did you get them from Panini grammar, or you do it when you are doing your cryptography?
It's much simpler. It's a regular expression. You have a symbol, okay. You just like you get the value for one symbol, you can get the value for two symbols. So if you have a sign and you say, hey, what are the possible values that fit into this? you get the values, and it's just, these are examples. You would read like this anyway. Okay, these are not rules. These are just descriptions to tell you how you would read it. So, for example, I have here, repeating bars of 3, okay, 3 strokes with a space in between. And I'm saying that this is a different sign than if there's no space and then it's just 6 strokes. So it is common sense. But I'm writing it down so that if somebody wants to create a system to parse these signs, there is there's a standard set of observations that are put in here. Okay. So same thing here, there's 2 lines are slanted from the third line. That is how they show that this is different. And there is no reason to do that differently, because in other places they have not done it differently. So they are just trying to denote that these are 2 different signs, that the 2 inclined strokes is different from the 1 vertical stroke. And you can try reading all the different inscriptions with those signs, and you will see that this is the only one that matches. Okay, so all I've done is, because I've read all of that, I've summarized it here, so that although you're going to come to the same conclusions, you have one place where all of these are a reference.
Yeah. So my next question is about Pashupati seal and the other seal, DK6847. So what are those seals? What are they depicting at all? Pashupati seal.
Pashupati seal?
Yeah. What is the meaning of the text written there, and what is the in most seals we don't see any relation between the seal and the text. So
yeah,
why is it written like that? And what is the meaning in this seal and the other seal?
Okay. So the Pashupati seal, what is written on top is Ashasan Mana, which means the honored punisher. So that is one of the names of Shiva. Mana is honored. Ashasan is someone who punishes. So he's the punisher of Kama. Okay, that's one of his names. This particular seal, the iconography of this has been deciphered or has been read by someone from ASI in one of their publications. I tweeted about it, taking their screenshot. So essentially what they're saying is, this is the description of Shiva from Anushasana Parva and Shanti Parva of Mahabharata. Okay, so Shiva has different rupas, right? So he has what's called Vyala Rupa and so on. So Vyala means stylish, so that is Shiva. And Shardula means eminent, okay, which also means tiger. So Vyala means elephant, Shardula means, okay, and the Gandin, that is the rhinoceros. So Gandin means one who has the horns, okay, and Mahisha means is a great one. So that's why that buffalo is there. And in the bottom you see a goat. It's Aja. Aja means unborn also. So these names are also the names of the animals, are also the names of Shiva. Okay, and in the Shiva picture himself, you see he has that matted hair. It's called Kaparda. So it's Kapardin, and he has 3 heads. It's called Trishirsha. Trishirsha means he has 3 heads, meaning he sees the past, present, and future simultaneously. Okay. And then he has that elephant skin on his chest. He has Hiranya Bahu, like golden arms. He has the long nails. I forget the Sanskrit name for it, but he has long names. He has Urdhvalinga, okay, and he's not wearing any clothes. That is also one of his attributes. He is also a yogi, sitting in the Mula Bandhasana. This is a very, very difficult asana. So here what happens is the heels are pointing front and the toes are pointing towards the body. Okay, it's a very hard position to do. So these are all his description from Mahabharata chapters. So that's what this means. Sorry, what was the other one you wanted to ask?
Yeah, since you mentioned Mahabharata, do you mean to say that Mahabharata and Puranas are all, even also mentioned Plabdaka story and also Sindhopura
Yes.
Sindhara story. Do
Yeah.
you mean to say that those Puranas existed at the time only?
Yeah, those stories existed for sure, right? Otherwise, how will they draw it? It's very hard to draw this without having the story.
Yeah, okay. So my other question is why the text in these seals are not depicting or not related to something on the seal?
So for some seals they do, right? So for here Ashasan Mana it does.
What
For
about the other one? I think the number is let me check. Sorry.
so
Okay,
let me
continue.
complete the thing, right? So
Yeah.
if you look at the lot of the seals, they are the seals. This I don't think we can claim that this is a A for apple, B for ball kind of thing where you have a picture and you write exactly what the picture represents. It is not a tutorial. Okay. So what it is that image represents some kind of standard of the government or some organization, and the script represents some either either a prayer or a slogan or something. Okay. So for example, if if you have Shivalinga and you have prayer, people write prayer to it, you will have the same Shivalinga and multiple prayers, right? Same thing. So or if you have a government like the Indian government logo is the 3 lions, right? You have that, and under that you have different things they write. They may write so there is there is no rule that says you have to write what you have to describe the icon in the inscription everywhere. That is the only thing. You cannot impose that rule on people from 3000 BC. Okay. So so that is the that is that. And if you look at the seals, right, many of these seals are just some of them are just probably names. Some of them are like here, this one says Sham, so this one it just says Sham. Sham means bless. Okay. And it's also in your Navy's motto is Shamna Varna, meaning bless us Varna. So you find a lot of Sham like this, using the different variants of the Shah and so yeah. So your question is, did Puranas exist? The stories existed. Now the stories may have been rewritten and the language changes. And if you look at the language, you don't know when the story is from. So for example, if you take a Bible from today, you read Jesus' story, you may think that the Jesus story is from year 2024. But it's an old story that's been repeated multiple times and rewritten multiple times. And from, originally it was even written in Greek. So that is, so just by looking at the last thing you have, you cannot determine when the story originated.
So, okay. What about the other sale number is, let me give you the number. 1186. M1186.
Yeah.
The 7 heads and the seal.
Right. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay, what's the question about the seal?
What exactly it is depicting? Is there anything from seal that we can understand?
This one, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this looks like it's there's a couple of interpretations of this. One is it's Shiva's Dakshinamurti. So Shiva's Dakshinamurti, I think I tweeted it. Let's see. Yeah, it's this one, right?
Yeah.
So this is Shiva in that Ashwatha tree, and there are 7 Saptarshis.
Yes.
So it's Dakshinamurti image of Shiva. That is one interpretation. The other interpretation is that it's there's a particular goat sacrifice in Yajurveda. So you see the goat here, and this guy is, going to sacrifice it to Shiva. So that's another possible interpretation, because here there is no goat. Okay. So those are two possible interpretations. So the interpretation of the imagery, I think that is we have not reached that level yet. So far we're still only reading the seals. The interpretation of the imagery is something that will come next, and then once we have interpretation of good number of seals, we can have another show where we describe all of it.
Okay. What about the unicorn?
Sorry, Hendra. No. In one of the interpretations of that particular seal, they were mentioning about the Mrigasirsha of the.
Okay.
I think it's one of the Vedas. It was coming from.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Not this one. The other
Yajurveda.
Saptarshi's seal.
Yeah. Must be from Yajurveda. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know much about the interpretation of what the imagery is. I have not worked on it.
Yeah. Okay. What about the unicorn seal? Why is it having one horn only? Are there any other imaginary animals like unicorn in IVC seals? I also saw one seal with two horns.
Yeah.
Is it an animal?
Yeah. There's I think 2 or 3 seals with more than like 2 horns. Okay. But I think that this is the description of Shiva as a unicorn. This is in Mahabharata Shanti Parva. Okay. So it translates to Bodhridra, the great boar, the great unicorn, the shining one, the horse-headed, depicted in 4 forms. So this is essentially so here you see this Varaha and Ekashringa in this.
But it is written in Brahmi, isn't it?
Yeah, it's written in Brahmi, and it's written in a mix of Brahmi and Indus script. So that also I have put in my paper. I will translate it. Some of the symbols are not Brahmi; they're Indus scripts, Indus signs. So yeah, at some point so if you think about it, this particular sign exists in both Indus and Brahmi. This particular sign exists only in Indus, and so yeah. So this is one, and there is one in there's one in Veda itself where he says, yeah, here you go. Rigveda 5:59 once. Let's say I hope you have it open here. Right. So you see here, it's a Shringam, that is singular. So the one-horned one, that's what it says. Okay. So here it is talking to actually the deity is the Maruts, but I think they're talking about either Agni or Rudra. Okay. So the one horn thing, as a concept, it exists from Vedic times.
Okay. Since we are talking about the unicorn seal, you mentioned in your paper that unicorns and dragons are mentioned in Rigveda. Is it correct?
Yeah, I showed you.
Reference for us to later check on it.
Yeah. So this is the Shrangam. This is 5:51.
Yeah, that's for unicorn. What about the dragon?
So dragon is Vrata, right? Vrata and Ahi. Let's see if I can search. This is a good site, by the way, if you want to.
Yeah, wisdom level. We checked it also for some other references.
And so Ahi is a snake or a dragon. Okay, a dragon is nothing but a snake, and that is grown wings. So so they have stories of Ahi. So let me see if it actually says dragon anywhere. The serpent demon, yeah, it's it's a serpent of the sky. It's a flying serpent. So you have Ahi Bodhnya is the snake in the sky. So that is, so they have these and there are many these fantastic characters. You don't have to specifically worry about dragons. There are many of these imagined things in the Vedas. So the point is, just because it is written in poetry doesn't mean it needs to actually physically exist. That was the point.
Yeah, okay. My question is from now onwards about off topics on of your paper. What do you think? How is the relation between the Pi language and the Dravidian language? Because we see Indus, we see the connectivity with Indus in every state almost. Like many people
Yeah.
connect themselves with the Indus seals by the iconography or by the style of by the continuity in traditions. But
Yeah.
the language is not because they already separated five languages and Dravidian languages, and they are saying that we are not same.
So yeah, so you have to understand that language, the longer some people exist in a place, there are more languages. There will be the bigger and country, there will be more languages. Okay. So humans came out of Africa and came to India, and from India they went to Australia and New Guinea. Okay. And in Australia, there are some, I think, couple of dozen language groups. Okay. Not just languages, language groups. Many of them are isolates actually. So in Papua New Guinea, same thing. There are so many languages that are completely nothing to do with each other. So India, people have been here longer than either of those places. So in India, you should expect to see dozens of language groups. Okay. So it is actually pretty amazing that there are only two major language groups. Now there's Tibeto-Burman and others have also come in. Munda and all these people have come in. But the major two groups are Indo-Aryan and Dravidian. So there are two language groups, and that happened because of consolidation after agriculture. So agriculture developed in two places. It developed in the Gangetic belt at some 9000 BC. They started cultivating rice, and in the south also they started cultivating rice, and then other crops as well. So what happens is hunter gatherers, when there's a farming community, hunter gatherers will settle in with the farmers and adopt the language of the farmers. So in the end, you got two language groups, but the language doesn't mean the culture is different. Okay, so when in the south the population initially was not very high. So when the Indus Valley kind of, because of climate change, they had to move out of there. A lot of people moved south, and they adopted the southern languages. So even in the south, your DNA is 50-60% Indus Valley, because most people have come from Indus Valley. They have settled with the existing farming culture and adopted that language. Okay, so this is the mainstream view. Now there is some marginal view, or there's some research going on that is not complete, may never be complete. So one of them is by a person called Igor Tonoyan Belyayev. He's a Russian guy. So according to him, there is many words in Dravidian that are also in Indo-European. Like in Greek, there are some Dravidian words. In German, there are some Dravidian words, and so on. Okay. So, and then there is, he's saying, how is that possible? Unless Dravidian and Indo-Aryan and IE developed together. So his theory is it developed together, Dravidian separated, and it re-merged. That's why you have the similar noun cases, some grammar, all of this stuff, vocabulary shared. Many basic words in Dravidian, they are the same as Indo-Aryan, which is not, which is very rare. So like the word for vomit is vanti. Vanti is actually Sanskrit, vamati. Okay. So there is those hypotheses that still needs to be developed fully. Okay. To see what's the actual relationship. But I also tweeted Dravidian IE. Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, regarding your tweets, I also have some other question. Do you think Hindu Kush fountains can stop some people from migrating to India?
Yeah, just so here is if you go on this tag, you'll find all these words I found, Dravidian words that are in IE. Okay, which suggests that there is some connection between them from ancient times. Okay, sorry. Can you repeat a question about Hindu Kush?
Yeah, Hindu Kush Mountains. Do you think it can stop some people from migrating to India? Like in your recent tweets, I found it. I mean, not in the recent tweets.
Right. So people, so it's very easy to move out of India, because see, from the Khyber Pass, if you follow the Kabul River, it will take you out. It'll take you outside the Indian subcontinent. But it's hard to get in. The reason it's hard to get in is the mountains, they are like they're death maze. So let's see. So this is the Hindu Kush, okay? Hindu Kush is, this is a maze. Maze meaning if you try to get in here, you will get lost. And it's very, very harsh. It's very cold and it's very high, and then nothing grows there. There's no grass or anything. There's no trees. There's no food for you. And even in modern times, in even like 100 years ago, in the American West, they could not find the passes to create roads. They had to ask the Native Americans who knew the passes. So discovering passes
Native Americans,
is very hard.
Indians.
Now I'm talking about Americans in the US when they created the highway system.
Okay.
So you can't just travel across a mountain range. It's a maze. You see a mountain, you try to go around it, there's more mountains. You try to go around it, there's more mountains. And this is lakhs of square kilometers of mountains. So you cannot just walk across it like you're walking across like Punjab or any of these plains. It's just not possible. Okay. And you cannot ride chariots or ride horses. Horses can go on mountains, but it's because of the harshness, this is not practical. And in many places you can't go without oxygen also. So I don't think that anybody came across the Hindu Kush. I think what happened is they went around the Hindu Kush. So you follow the Kabul River, it just leads you out here and you go around it like that. Okay. So you can go around the Hindu Kush, and if you see all the Indus sites and the Indus peripheral sites, they're along this route. So they can come back. If there are all these sites, they can trade with the sites and they can discover this route back. But they cannot just walk across the Hindu Kush. That's not possible. I mean, even now it's very hard. Even now with all the roads and SUVs, well, now you can of course go, but it's very. Like without the modern roads, it's just not possible.
Yeah, one more question. Since you moved with the map, the IVC is very vast, and we can see around more than 50 lakh people. I mean, 5 million people.
Yeah.
In that at the time, and over 1,000 years of span. But when compared with the Egypt or Mesopotamia, there is very little writing seals or whatever inscriptions.
Yeah.
Like 4,000 plus seals are very small when compared with the population size of the IVC. What may be the cause for that?
So writing, people wrote in all kinds of cultures, and if they wrote on perishable materials, it didn't survive. So if you look at the Indus script signs, you see signs of cursive development, okay, which means they were writing on soft materials. And the things they wrote on soft materials, your birch bark, they have like 100, 200 years life. If they wrote it on cloth and all, it's gone. So the only reason you have scripts, you have materials on perishable materials, you have it in very few places where it's very dry. It's a desert. So like you have in South Sudan and some of these other places. If you wrote it on clay and baked the clay, like in Mesopotamia, then yeah, it will last. So in Indus script, in Indus Valley, most of the writing must have been on soft materials. And the things they put it on hard materials, they survive. That's why you have the steatite seals.
Yeah, my questions are almost coming to an end. Do you think AI models can help progress better in understanding the IV script or understanding our history better?
So AI, it depends on what data you train it with. And there is not a lot of AI, not a lot of Indus script data to train it with. So what can you do? You can probably give it some values of the signs, and you can give it the inscriptions. It may be able to translate it for you. So I don't know what more it could give you. So AI, you have to understand, is just like autocomplete. It tells you what could be an answer, but it is not a magic machine that extracts truth out of the universe. So of course, this is a fast developing area, and in 4 or 5 years, who knows, or even 2 years, who knows, some it may be able to do magic. So I don't really know.
So I have one more question, sir. Two more questions. If any history student, do you recommend any research work for them? I mean, like in related to this IVC script or something like that?
Yeah. So history in India starts from Ashoka's time, because that's the earliest writing they had. But I think now with the Indus script, even though the corpus is small, I think a lot of work can be done to extend that to 3000 BC. That's a huge jump of 3000 years. So that field is open. There's nobody working on it. So you could take the Indus inscription, you can match it with like the Puranas, and you can match it with iconography, and you can work on recreating 3000 years of history. It's a great opportunity for people who are in history, archaeology, all of this stuff. And you should grab it before somebody else does.
Yeah. One last question, sir. I mean, you did a very groundbreaking discovery. I mean, translating the IVC script is not an easy thing. And so, did you got any sponsorship or government assistance or something like that from Indian government or some private parties?
No. Nobody's going to give any. Nothing has happened so far. Okay, so
It's
I've
been
done
2.5
it.
years. Yeah, you should be getting some.
Yeah. I've done it on my own free time with my own money, and I'm not in need of anybody's money. So I will do my thing. If the government wants to do more than just the decipherment, if they want to generate interest in Indus Valley, the Indian history, Indian civilization, they should they should get some department to do it. I'm happy to help, but I have not received any sponsorship, or I don't need also.
Okay. My questions are completed here. So let's see if panel members have any questions. Monkey and Kiran, please go ahead.
Yeah, not the question, just a comment. As Mr. Yajnadevam has already mentioned, if anybody wants to do the research further on this, there is still further can be explored based on these assumptions, because most of our history was written based on many wrong and false assumptions, right? So if this assumption can be taken as a base, then a lot more can be explored further. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Kiran. What about Monkey?
Yeah, sir, I want to take you back to the allographs thing. So
Yes.
I have this question. So you assumed, I mean, again, the same question. Have you presumed that these are the same symbol with different variations? Is that a presumption, or you have arrived it after some rounds of decipherment?
Can you? So I have this thing here. Can you tell me?
For example, for so all of them actually are So how did you arrive at that? Because that is, I mean, one more path-breaking thing when I compare with other decipherers, because most of them consider every sign as unique. Most of them, I mean, as far as so.
Right. Okay. So the way I also described it somewhere, but essentially, what you can do with cryptography is you can try to decipher each of those variants separately. And if you see a pattern where even the smallest or even reasonable variations result in the same value, then as a system, you can determine that there is a variance in the appearance of the glyphs. Okay, so in a hand carved system, so you have to understand these are not typewritten, they don't have printing machines. Okay,
Yeah.
so although you see these variants here, there are really many more variants. They vary slightly, so depending on how sensitive you are. if you think that the curve is a little, is a little too much curved in versus curved out, you can create, if you're very sensitive, every instance of it will be a separate sign for you.
Right.
So the question is, how sensitive do you want to be? Okay. And the way I determine it is, if I can look at something, okay, I can show you something and tell you this is A and this is B, and you come back 2 days later, you should be able to look at them and tell the difference. Okay. So if you can, then you can consider them separate glyphs. So now with the glyphs, if you try to solve the value of a glyph separately, okay, and they all come to the same value, as long as they look slightly similar, then it means as a system that they all are the same sign, just different representations. And if you look at it, they're not very different. They're only slightly different. Okay.
Yes.
So they're, they're flipped, or they have, a line here, line there. That's basically it.
Yeah, most of them are, but some of them, like Tal. So Tal is they're very different. So most of them are similar. Yeah. So something.
So the Tal, the symbol is just, it's just sleeping down. I mean, I could have created a separate sign for it, but ultimately this, whatever reconstructing the sign names, this is for our convenience. Okay, for us to remember.
Yes.
So
I understand that. My next question is, when you put the Indus script and the Brahmi side by side, it is right. I mean, like, I was really, astonished at the similarities. So the previous experts, that this is actually the first time I was also an enthusiast. So yeah, this is like glaring into your face. Why no one has considered that? It could be Sanskrit, because Brahmi is the earliest script in which Sanskrit was written. So why nobody? Has somebody considered and tried to discover?
They have. So that Brahmi is, developed from Indus, is proposed, more than I think a few years after Indus script was discovered, somebody proposed it. I forget his name, but many people have proposed that. But they had not created a table like this. Okay, they had looked at it and they saw a couple of signs that look similar, and they said, hey, explore this. Okay. So, and even I wouldn't be able to do this until I already deciphered it. So what happened was, once I deciphered it, the first thing I did was sort all the signs according to their values. Okay, I put it in I, because I wanted to present it. And when I did, I saw that the names. I tried to find the names, and the names were so close. Okay. So then I saw some of these are actually identical to Brahmi values. So okay, so easy example is this the, right? This the is the same as Brahmi the, and this wa is the same as this Brahmi wa, right?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I have this table. This table I had created. So let me create a table of Brahmi and pick the closest and put it in here. So I did, and it looked. I mean, I was also shocked when I saw this. And if I hadn't deciphered it, it wouldn't be so easy for me to look through all the signs and find, maybe others could have done it, but for me, this is a natural outcome after decipherment.
Okay. Yeah. So my last question. So you have translated like 37% of it, of the corpus. So what is actually stopping it? Once you have, identified which symbol is which, you completely transliterated it. So 100% of it, I guess. So what is stopping? The Sanskrit expertise, or like what is the want here?
No, it's mostly time. I have my own life. I have to do, I have a job. I have to do all this stuff. So that's essentially it.
So other people who has enough knowledge of Sanskrit, they can continue with the remaining translations.
Of course, anybody can do it. And some of these are not, I put it on. I put it on Twitter and I've asked people's opinion. They have given it, so anyone can read it. And the shorter ones, I'll show you the shorter ones are actually pretty. Let me go.
So Monier Williams is the base. Corpus, Sanskrit corpus you are taking from where you are translating. Or you are enhancing with your own knowledge of Sanskrit. So like for someone like me who is not much into the Sanskrit, so how do I start? I'm interested. I was following. I have been following you on the Twitter for long, probably. Yeah. So
yeah. So let me give an example of how you would read this. I'm giving a short ones because it's easy. Okay. Now here, for example, you see Asmi. You see this? This is auto-generated.
Okay.
Asmi is a Sanskrit word, means I exist.
Yes.
Right. So this you can just write it as Asmi. Okay. And this is Shashaya or Sasya. Okay. So this is Anasa. So you can, the Shamana I have written it, but you can read it as Shamana, right? So you can just read it, and you can look up the dictionary to see what the meaning is. In fact, what you can do is you can read through the existing inscriptions here and get familiar with the words they use. So then you can just assign it. Okay, so that is, but the long inscriptions are done, the hard ones are done. So the short ones, I think anyone can do.
Okay.
And when I get time, I will keep working on it. So if nobody else picks it up, it should be still done in a few months, like 3-4 months. It should be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is the transliteration completed 100%? Is transliteration?
Yeah, transliteration is completed. Yeah, that's machine generated. Because each sign has a value, so I just substitute the value. That's it.
So in case in future, if there is any new seal coming up, we can just simply get it done, right?
Yeah, any future seal. In fact, a lot of the seals, some of the seals were discovered in Dholavira after my inscription decipherment was complete.
Oh, okay.
So they fell into your corpus?
Of course.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. That's promising. Yeah, I said my last question, but like probably the lastest. So what worldview has changed about the IVC after your discovery? Yours is path-breaking. You know it also. So if it's accepted in the academic circles, like maybe a few years from now, let's hope. So what worldview has changed of IVC people? Like
so for me, before I started this decipherment, I was under the impression that the script would be some kind of Indo-Iranian or some kind of early Sanskrit, something I didn't actually know. So after I read it, I'm of the opinion that it's after Vedics. There are some Vedic forms, but it's definitely the concepts, all the. So that is one. The other is the idea of continuity has been strengthened. I think pretty much now anyone who's heard of the decipherment is pretty confident that the civilization is unbroken. It's unbroken from the scratch. Okay. So though these I think are the major change in viewpoint of the people.
Yeah, since we are talking about some viewpoints, why you published the paper 2 years ago? Why the academia didn't consider your paper? They seem to keep silent in your paper. They are not either refuting or not accepting. Why is that?
Okay, I cannot guess their mind, but I'll tell you what I've come across. So it's on academia where there are a lot of scholars, and all the people who are, so when someone reads it on academia, I get a notification, and all the big names in the IndusScript space have read it, and whenever I publish an update, they read it. Okay, so if they could refute it, I think they would have, because they have refuted other papers before, other decipherments before. Okay, this is just, the issue here is there's nothing to refute. The method is known. It's an old method. It's a foundational method, principle of information theory, and there is nothing there's nothing surprising in the inscriptions. They're similar to Gupta inscriptions. So what is it they're going to object to? They can say that you did the thing wrong. Like everything is correct, but your values are wrong because you made these mistakes in step 3 and step 5. Well, then they should be able to find it. So they're silent because they don't want to bring attention to this. If they can endorse it or they can refute it. No one has refuted it. And endorsement is also very difficult, because I'll tell you why. This IndusScript is a kind of, there has been so many decipherments that people don't want to endorse, and then someone else falsifies it, and these people feel foolish. Okay. So that is why it's quiet, and it's very normal for decipherments to not get any recognition for many, many years. So Egyptian script was deciphered by Champion, and it was not recognized until after his death. Linear B was deciphered by Michael Ventris. It was not acknowledged till, I think, more than a decade or two after he deciphered it. So scripts are always like that. Same with cuneiform. When they said it was, I forget the name of the decipherer, but he said it's a polyvalent script where the sign has a different value based on what's next to it. People said, no, that's nonsense. But eventually they did accept it. So scripts are always going to get a lot of resistance when someone claims a decipherment. So I'm not expecting everyone tomorrow to say, Yajnadevam is right. My God, this is awesome. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So the fact that you can read the whole corpus meaningfully and grammatically is sufficient for most people. It should be sufficient. Everything else, I don't understand the math, I don't understand the information theory, I don't understand this, I don't understand that. All of that is secondary. That is mostly for me to convince myself, and that is to give a formal structure and kind of a proof to insulate against. So see, my task is difficult. In any other script, if I decipher, it's not an issue. But in IndusScript, not only you have to decipher it, you have to prove that you are right, and everybody in the past is wrong, and everybody in the future is wrong. It's a very difficult thing to do. So for that, I had to do that whole mathematics and all this stuff. Otherwise, none of that needs to be in the paper. I just need to say, these are the values. And here is a bunch of, I've read, 500 characters. This is it. That is what all the other papers do, right? None of them have this kind of reader, right? So they'll be quiet for a while, and they'll wait for others to see if anybody refutes. Nobody refutes, then they'll slowly accept. That's how it is.
Yeah. I think my questions are completed. Does anyone else in the panel have any questions? Yajnadevam sir gave only 30 minutes for me, but we almost spent more than 1.5 hours. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity, sir, to host you in my panel. Anyone else has any questions, or shall we conclude the session? Okay, I take it as so. Sir, your work is really groundbreaking, and I hope Academy will later or sooner they will accept your work.
Yes, thank you.
It's an amazing, marvelous job, sir. Really marvelous job. Really marvelous job. I think so far I used to think Corona did a bad thing, but right now I changed my opinion. Did a very good thing by deciphering the IVC script. It's a very good thing. I never thought that someone could able to come up with a solution which cannot be refuted by anyone else because of the methods. So this is really amazing work. Thank you very much, sir. Shall we close the live?
Yes, I think so. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for.
We can.
Bye.
Thanks, Yajnadevam garu.
Yeah.